The stockings were still hung by the chimney with care, the lights on the tree still shining brightly, Santa was still digesting his cookies and milk when Vivek Ramaswamy decided to put out a social media post that really pissed some people off. Now, the post is lengthy and wordy, but I will sum it up for you. Vivek basically defended the need for more foreign workers and visa holders because, according to his assessment, the American people are shallow, undeveloped, and mediocre, and our popular culture is rotten and brain melting. So I think you can see why many America First mega patriots were mega pissed off. Some probably too much so and a bit melodramatic, but hey, I get it. To go from a Trump primary challenger to a Trump surrogate to a Trump administration major player and hailed somewhat a Doge hero, to then put out a post denigrating and insulting the American people the day after Christmas, yeah, it rubs some folks the wrong way. And I don't disagree with everything Vivek said there. I mean, yes, our education system needs work. We need to root out the DEI, the CRT, the fixation on LGBTQ, and more for sure. But let me also say this to his little paragraph crapping on American culture and entertainment. Don't start, because our number one export to the rest of the world is entertainment. We do it best. The rest of the world pays to have it. There's no room for debate there. Also, nothing wrong with being a jock or a prom queen. We don't need to be a nation full of socially awkward nerds either. It takes all kinds. What we could use more of is parenting, work ethic, tenacity, and ambition. We don't just need more engineers or brainiacs. We need people who know how to build things and create things with their hands. Vivek's post inspired a full-on X meltdown. And to add fuel to the fire, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world and likely one of the most successful immigrants to ever inhabit the USA, well, he put his 2 cents in on the need for H1-B visas. And, well, that also didn't go over well, because telling folks who voted for America First and American jobs and a plug-in over immigration to F themselves in the face, well, that strikes a nerve. The left loves all of this, by the way. They're dubbing it a mega civil war, and it's really more of a social media spat that's been blown out of proportion due to the fact that a lot of people had last week off and spent it scrolling X, reading posts, and getting pissed off. Jeepers creepers, we don't need to give them any ammunition this close to the inauguration. You know, I'm not personally a fan of expanding H-1B visas, but that doesn't mean I now want Elon out of the mega tent. It's a big tent. Debate, disagree, discuss, but let's not go hysterical here. So here's my extended take. We need legal immigration, but we don't need over immigration. We also need to tax remittances for those who make their money here and send it back to the home country they don't want to live in, but they want to subsidize. There's a reason we are the number one country in the world, and millions flock to here, not away from here. And there's nothing wrong with being blue collar, a jock, or a prom queen, or a rancher, or a janitor, or an electrician. Sure, we could use more engineers, but you can say that without taking a giant dump on the American people who don't happen to have advanced degrees. America first, America always. Joining me now with her take on this and more is Uncover DC editor-in-chief and Dark to Light podcast host, Tracy Beanz. All right, Tracy, I'm very curious to hear what your take is on the meltdown that really ensued over the weekend and is still really extending itself on X over the visas, immigration, legal immigration. Boy, it's sure a fun place to be on X right now. What's your take?
I was standing there like I was watching a fight, and just the ping pong ball or the fighting go back and forth in front of me, like, ooh, ooh. One thing I took from this that a lot of people haven't really mentioned is how beautiful it was that so many people were speaking what was on their minds so freely and so true, right? Some of it was absolutely horrible, Tomi, but we got to see people's hearts. They weren't afraid to talk. They actually vented what they thought. And that allowed a number of people to make then judgment calls over whether or not they want to be around people who think like X or Y and know exactly what people were thinking about. That was a massive positive to come out of this. But the argument in and of itself just seemed so ill-timed and very strange. I didn't even want to be a part of it. It's like, is this necessary right now? Can we wait 3 weeks and have a discussion? But the banter was something else for sure.
It was, it's a conversation worth having. And I was happy to see the conversation being had, again, yeah, not the best time for it, I guess. But I think that it's interesting that some are, a little bit upset at Elon and Vivek. They were really hailed as heroes. A lot of people credit Elon Musk for Trump's election victory, at least in some part. And I don't disagree with that. I think unleashing X unleashing free speech, also his endorsement, his Joe Rogan podcast. I think that that swayed a lot of folks in the direction of Donald Trump. So I think that Elon is always going to be not only an asset to this country, but an asset to the movement. I think that he is America first. However, that doesn't mean that I agree with everything that he says. And I don't think that every conservative or every Donald Trump supporter is going to agree with Elon every step of the way. I think you're going to see a lot of times where people are going to push back on that, because I think that he's missing a lot of what made the mega movement back in 2015 and 2016. And that really is the American worker. And I'm not so sure that Elon Musk fully grasps that. And why should he? You know, he's the richest man in the world. He is not, you know, an American, although he is now. He wasn't born an American. So I understand. But do you think that we're going to see more folks turning on Elon and Vivek as we kick off this second administration?
I think that we need to stop with this hive mind like mentality that we have. You're allowed to disagree with somebody and not despise them and kick them out of the tent. You know, you and I talked about this during the primary for Donald Trump as well. You know, God forbid you leaned towards a different candidate for a second. You were basically excommunicated, regardless of what your past was or what your belief system is. And it's happening again and again and again. Of course, we're going to disagree. Has there ever been a time in history where people with so many different belief sets have been together working towards certain common goals? We don't agree with each other on every single thing. You know, not everybody's going to agree with RFK on his thoughts about offshore drilling per se, but they may agree with him on the safety and efficacy of medication. It's going to happen, and we need to learn how to deal with that like adult human beings and stop acting like petty children and throwing the baby out with the bathwater every time somebody comes along and says something that doesn't set exactly in your, you know, what you believe. And that's what we really need to do if we're going to be successful at anything.
No, I agree. And that's the thing that makes this movement so great, is that there is a lot of diversity of thought within the movement, and that's healthy. And it makes for robust conversations that need to be had. But I want to go back to really the essence of the argument, taking the argument itself and putting that to the side for the moment, just discussing the expansion of legal immigration and the visa system. You know, I think the left love to watch the meltdown. And then you've got other folks on MSNBC, of course, saying, oh, be careful, MAGA, you know, they're turning on white people. Elon and Vivek are turning on white people. Obviously has nothing to do with it. They have to make everything about race. But I want to play this clip and get your take.
America is a land of the free, home of the brave, all that good stuff that Elon Musk was tweeting about. However, please don't come for Americans. And I would like, let's be very clear, I would like white Americans to stand up. This is your calling card, honey. Where's your banner? Because they coming for you. They said y'all white and lazy. That's crazy.
Well,
that's crazy.
What I
and
find
if I said it, y'all would be coming for me.
Well,
I would never say that because that's insane.
That's the point. What you have happening here is the very thing that white folks have said about black people.
I'm sorry. I just want to know, Vivek was born in the U.S.
For generations. Vivek is now saying about white people, and they don't like it for some reason. Oh, y'all not lazy. Y'all not slow. Y'all not stupid. Well, that's what we've been saying for 400 years, and yet here we are. You still want to not read our history or go through our CRTs and all this stuff.
This is why the great Reverend Jesse Jackson talked about the Rainbow Coalition, honey, and people were uniting across the working class, okay? And black people and white folks and Latino folks coming together, because the rich people, they're not here for you, and this is how they letting you know, okay? They just let you know. So you want to come on over to the Rainbow Coalition, you come join us, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I disagree with the premise, the argument. I disagree with most of that conversation there. But, you know, here's my concern, Tracy, and I'm wondering if you can kind of see it as well. I think Democrats lost in 2024 because they had horrible candidates. A lot of reasons they lost. The economy was awful. But I think another reason they lost is because they lost the working class. And I think if Democrats can figure out a way to chip away and get back that working class, I think that they're going to be formidable opponents in 2026 and 2028. And I worry if the Republican Party and the MAGA coalition start saying, hey, you know what we need is more foreign workers because they're better than Americans. I worry that some of those working class folks that voted Republican maybe for the first time, they're going to go back to the Democrat Party because they're going to say, oh, wait, no, Elon and Vivek and, you know, the MAGA movement, they want more foreign smart people, and the working class really does belong with the Democrat Party. Do you think that there's any risk of that?
Not if we do things correctly and just educate and inform people. This is such a multifaceted issue, and a lot of these conversations got convoluted with each other. For example, DEI is one of the major reasons that a lot of the white male people who were commenting about losing their jobs to so-and-so or not having a job anymore lost their jobs. There is this, fear in big tech and elsewhere about hiring white males to do jobs because of DEI. Get rid of it. That's a left-created construct. That's what we need to be hammering home. And do you notice what happens here? Anytime the government, the federal government, gets involved in literally anything, it turns into garbage. Same thing here. They're tinkering around. Let people immigrate here. Very basic. Let's not start creating all the special visas for this group and special visas for that group. And that clip, Tom, the perpetual victimhood about literally everything that drips off of all these people is enough to drive you insane. You'll never get ahead if you're perpetually a victim, ever. Even when you are discriminated against because of a DEI policy or an H1-B visa, the American way is to brush yourself off, stand up, and figure out another way to get it done. And we always do. But reform of this program is necessary, and we shouldn't be importing people when we have people here that can do those jobs. And there's a debate right now about, well, you won't work 80 hours a week. I don't think in this country working 80 hours a week is the quality of life we need and want to raise a family and have men home to be dads while also being breadwinners. So there's so much to talk about with this.
Yeah, and also understanding that the American culture might be a little bit different than, let's say, the Indian culture. And guess what? There's nothing freaking wrong with that. This is what bothers me so much, is that it always has to go into this racism and, this cultural sensitivity. No, it's not. It's okay to say that we like the American culture. There's a reason people flee here, because they want that culture for themselves. They don't want to work 80 hours a week for lesser pay. They don't want to work in a sweatshop. They want to be in the United States of America because their quality of life is better. So I think that there's something to be said about that. But I'll tell you another thing. The reason I think that this really pissed people off, and a lot of the MAGA America First folks, I don't agree again with some of the hysteria. It was too much, right? It wasn't like, I told you these people were bad, get them out of the party. I don't agree with that either. But I'll tell you why I think it pissed them off. Because we have been inundated with immigration just in general. Illegal immigration being, the biggest problem, 10 million plus in under Joe. Obviously, illegal immigration is our biggest gripe and complaint. But when you have 10 million come in the last 4 years, and then you win an election based on closing the border and securing it, and then the next thing that your surrogates say is, but you know what we do need more of? Legal immigration. We want to still bring people in from other countries. We just want them to do it in the right way, which would be expanding visas. That pissed a lot of people off, because they're like, hey, listen, our compassion has been taken advantage of for the last 4 years, and our compassion has done run out. And I think that's why you saw the backlash to Elon and Vivek. Yeah,
it was bad. It was just bad timing. Like, let's fix the problem first and then deal with that. Like, it was just a terrible political move, and being unable to read the room. And I think also thinking that they could really say or do anything and they were sacred cows played into it just a little bit, just naive about what's going on. It was refreshing to see people fight back against it in a respectful way. Debate is always important. So yeah, I agree with you. Let's fix this and deport the people we need to deport, and we'll go from there. Yeah,
we're about immigration out at this point. Might need to take a little pause. And then when we fix that problem, we can start talking about who we need in this country and what we could use more of. Let's fix the problem, though. Let's bandage the hole, the gaping hole that we have. Next thing I want to talk about, I saw you tweet about it, and I'm in obviously full agreement. They're trying to make bird flu the next COVID. They want us to be terrified of the bird flu. I don't know if they're already priming us for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. I don't think any of us are going to be dumb enough for that one again. I saw you tweeted out this clip. A lot of people are really pissed off about it. Let's take a look at the next fear porn mongering episode.
There are two main things that they should be doing in the days that they have left. The first is to get testing out there. I feel like we should have learned our lesson from COVID that just because we aren't testing, it doesn't mean that the virus isn't there. It just means that we aren't looking for it. We should be having rapid tests, home tests available to all farm workers, to their families, for the clinicians taking care of them, so that we aren't waiting for public labs and CDC labs to tell us what's bird flu or not. And the second very important thing is, this is not like the beginning of COVID where we we're dealing with a new virus, we didn't have a vaccine. There actually is a vaccine developed already against H5N1. The Biden administration has contracted with manufacturers to make almost 5 million doses of the vaccine. However, they have not asked the FDA to authorize the vaccine. There's research done on it. They could get this authorized now and also get the vaccine out. We don't know what the Trump administration is going to be doing around bird flu. If they have people coming in with anti-vaccine stances, could they hold up vaccine authorization? If they don't want to know how much bird flu is out there, could they withhold testing?
All right. So if you would have played that clip, let's say 8 years ago, people would be like, okay, I don't completely disagree with her. Like, if we have a vaccine, we should develop one. If we need to test people to see if they're infected, that's a great idea. We want to have testing available. But given what we went through in 2020 through, for some people, I mean, damn near 2023, people are very skeptical when you hear anybody start talking about the precautions, because 2 weeks to flatten the curve was the biggest lie we've been told in the last decade. How do you think we should be responding to this? And do you think that we are headed down that slippery slope?
We will never head down that slippery slope again. Ever. I don't think people will, and it might be to people's detriment eventually. Like I said in the post, if it's my time to go, I'll go. I'm just never going to sacrifice my freedom for any of this fear-mongering nonsense again. But think about what she's saying. Just think about what she's saying. She's saying we don't really know how many people have bird flu because we're not testing for it. Does it matter at that point? Like, that means, like, let's just pretend there are 100,000 people walking around with bird flu who recover. Okay. What's the difference? What's the difference at that point? If it's out there already and people have it, you're not hearing like massive amounts of people getting sick and dying. You're not hearing about hospitals being overrun. What's the difference? Like, if people are asymptomatic, why would you test them? Why would you test asymptomatic farm workers for a virus? And further, we've learned this very, very clearly, and we've known it for a long time. Why are you vaccinating against a virus? A virus is constantly evolving and changing. Vaccines do not work against viruses. They never work against viruses. It's always, always, always a problem. So the whole thing was just a fear-mongering propaganda segment. And people are just done with it. And maybe one day there will be a deadly virus that's actually really deadly, and the boy who cried wolf will never be listened to again, and people will die. The way I'm looking at it is, if it's my time, I'll go. I'm just never going to sacrifice my freedom for these people, ever. Not happening.
See, but that's the key there, though. It's the freedom part of it. Listen, I think that we need to heed warnings, and I think that we need to be aware of what's going on. And if bird flu, I mean, that's not something we want to mess with, right? So I think that we need to have knowledge of it. I think there need to be research and studies done on it. If you have a vaccine that's safe and effective, you want to talk about that, you want to talk about medication, you want to talk about whatever, have the discussion, put it in the public square, put it in the science community. But my things are, don't shut up people who are skeptical or suspicious. And two, don't make us lock down our country over it. I think that's the thing, is it's like, we should have never locked down for COVID. And we know that now, but may we never be dumb enough to do that again and to rob people of many other things in this pursuit of, the bubble wrap that they wanted to put people in that in the end of the day didn't work anyway. So I think that them trying to, kind of instill this panic in people again, I don't think it's working. And I also think that it's just another thing that they want to put a cloud over the Trump administration. It's like, oh, we know you lost in 2020 because of that COVID thing. Let's see if we can cause another panic and just kind of ruin your first year in office. People aren't going to fall for it. Speaking of 2020, though, and speaking of 2024, I thought it was really interesting. Reports are coming out about this. Joe Biden, he really wishes that he would have stayed in the race. He thinks that he could have beaten Donald Trump. What's your assessment of that? And do you think that there's a chance he could be right? Do you think that he could have done better than Kamala?
No. I mean, nobody probably would have done as poorly as Kamala did, but I don't think that Biden would have won. I don't think there was anything stopping Trump from winning this election cycle. It was just too many things, all compiled into one. So many different issues of American life that people were passionate about, and finished with that administration. They weren't just finished with Kamala Harris. They were finished with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They did absolutely nothing but harm us. And everyday Americans could see that. He had no chance. But I really wish I could have been a fly on the wall as all of that was going on in the White House. And I think they voted for Trump, honestly. I really do.
I do
think
too.
that Biden.
Oh, I do too. But I'll tell you this. I think, and all these people coming out now saying, oh, we should have been more honest about Joe's cognitive decline. We should have been more aware of it. Everybody was aware. We were all aware. In 2020, people were aware. Everyone knew that Joe Biden was declining. The reason that these people not only tried to convince us, but in some sick, twisted way tried to convince themselves that Joe was okay is because they really didn't want to have to run Kamala. So they were like, listen, if we can just prop Joe up for a while, we don't have to do Kamala. Like, please, anything but running Kamala. And then it became so bad and so unavoidable. They're like, shoot, we're going to have to run Kamala. And she lost. He would have lost. Everyone would have lost to Donald Trump. But I think it's just interesting now the way that Joe is, I think, going to seek revenge on all these folks that he feels pushed him out. If he wants to go to the nursing home thinking that he could have won in 2024, I mean, if that's your last perk, Joe, go for it. But I think it's comical that that would even be put out there. Last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, Tracy, is this upcoming speaker fight. Do you think it's going to be a fight? And if so, how damaging do you think that's going to be to the incoming Trump administration that would really be in a scramble if that were to happen?
I mean, part of me is upset that the last one happened, but I was still grateful that we got to see some true colors. And I've been wildly disappointed with Mike Johnson, but he was just endorsed today. So the president has spoken, and I'm assuming most, if not all, of the House will fall in line with that and will be stuck with a Speaker Johnson, who I don't know what happened to him. I thought he was a genuine person. He came off that way. Something changed very rapidly with him. It's very disappointing.
What's your biggest gripe with Speaker Johnson?
He's a liar. He's a liar.
In what way?
Ukraine. That's the biggest one. He's also, in my opinion, he's cozying up to all the people that we most appreciated from like a pop culture standpoint, from Vivek to Elon Musk to, all of the all the UFC guys, and he's on the plane and he's with RFK and he's hanging out with the guys. And then he basically goes and does things that we don't appreciate, trying to pass through that ridiculous omnibus right before break so they could all go home for Christmas and spend the rest of our tax dollars and basically give away everything that we just voted in hidden caveats. It's a lot. There's a lot. Should I continue?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I don't think there's anyone better. So that's my concern. I'm like, I don't know who I'd put in that position that would actually want it. If he wanted it, I mean, it would be hard. There's a lot of them that didn't want it. Last go around, I wanted Jim Jordan, but Jim Jordan didn't want it, and I love people like Byron Donalds, but I don't think that, he necessarily had a chance either. I will say this. I have been cautiously optimistic about Speaker Johnson in certain places, and other places disappointment. I don't think we're ever going to get anyone perfect that's going to do everything we want all the time. I just don't think it's possible with the numbers that we have. But the Ukraine thing also really did bother me, and I'm really, really tired of that being, it seems to be all of our elected officials. For some reason, they must meet in a back room and just really go gung-ho for Ukraine together, even though the American people, by and large, are sick and tired of it. That is my complaint there, and I hope that he understands that the American people are sick and tired of it. And I hope Donald Trump does as well, because no more blank checks to anybody. America first. Tracy, a very happy New Year to you. Thank you for helping me close out the new year on this show, and I hope to have you back in 2025.
Absolutely. Have a happy new year, Tomi.
You as well, Tracy. All right, folks. We finally have photo evidence of Joe with Hunter's business associates. Knock me over with a feather. It's time for final thoughts. It's no secret, Sleepy Joe has a strange relationship with the truth. He's told so many lies at this point, it'd be easier to give you a list of truthful things he said, or I guess in his case, mumbled, stuttered, and slurred. But here are some of my personal favorites from the archive of Joe's lies.
I did not know he was on the board of that company. I've never discussed my business or their business, my sons or daughters. I never discussed a single thing with my son about anything having to do with Ukraine. I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings. I have never discussed with my son or my brother or anyone else anything having to do with their businesses, period.
Back in 2019, he had no knowledge of his son Hunter's foreign business dealings. Well, that was a lie. And that's probably why his team had him revise that to no involvement in the foreign business dealings. And also hard to believe given the evidence on Hunter's laptop, the laptop the Biden family also lied about. Remember that email, 10% for the big guy, in regards to a very lucrative deal with Chinese business associates? Well, what I'm about to show you is not at all surprising if you've been paying the least bit of attention. But just to drive the point all the way home before Joe Biden goes to the home, we finally have photo evidence of Joe not only having knowledge of the foreign Chinese business dealings, but cheesing in photos with those associates. The newly released photos show then Vice President Joe Biden meeting with more than one of Hunter's business associates in China. And in those photos, Joe looks pretty dang cozy with the associates he claimed to have never interacted with. It's no wonder Joe pardoned Hunter for that time period to date, because in doing so, he not only spared Hunter, but likely shielded himself from potential investigations as well. So as we close out the dumpster fire that's been Joe's political career, I'd like to take a poll. What's your favorite lie from Joe? The one where he proclaimed to have no knowledge of those foreign business dealings, or the one where he vowed not to pardon his son? The man is a liar. Those who covered for him are liars. The Democrat Party is shameless and complicit and, quite frankly, an accessory to the crime. 20 days and the nightmare will be over. And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow live at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes of the show on Fox Nation at your leisure. Also, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.